Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Nora Moving Pictures. So today we're going to do a different kind of review. Typically I'm reviewing toys or showing some sort of build or something. This time I'm going to talk about gaming. I worked in the game industry for a little while, and I've been a gamer my whole life. And what I've got here is my gaming setup, or at least most of it. I have a little bit more spread around a couple of different places, but this is my primary gaming rig. I've got all sorts of analog goodness. I've got my NES, Super Nintendo, Xboxes, and Dreamcasts, and Famiclones, and Wii. Most of the stuff that I like to play on a regular basis. But I want to talk about a device for the NES system. And if you're familiar with the NES, it's one of the greatest systems ever made as far as I'm concerned. But I started with a Retron, I believe it's a 2, and it wasn't quite there. I wanted to go ahead and get a regular NES. But what I forgot is they're a little finicky. So, I've got Mike Tyson's Punch-Out right here. And I haven't got an upscaler yet. That's something that's next on the list. I'm slowly trying to get this all together. But we'll go ahead and put in Mr. Punch-Out. Nothing happens. We'll try the classic things. So it's not working. Let's try putting 2 cartridges in. That sometimes works. Here I've got a Bionic Commando. Let's see what this does for us. Still nothing. Take that out. And we'll do the classic. Oh, you hear that? Sounds like Mike Tyson's ready to fight. But not quite. Looks like it's still not quite there. But as you can see, NES is quite finicky. And I had forgotten that. I remember having to blow on the cartridge and mess with things, but I forgot how much of a pain it was just to get a game to work. And I'm really wanting to play it. I want my kids to play. And so I kind of want to know the struggle too of having to deal with these. So now I'm going to take you into the studio and I'm going to show you a new device I just got in the mail through Kickstarter called Blinking Light for the Win. And I'm going to show you how it fixes the Nintendo. So here we're in the studio, and before we can talk more about this, set this to the side, we're going to open up what they sent us. So got my blade here. And I'll put links to the Kickstarter below, and I'm assuming these are going to be on sale afterwards too. So, got a component there, and just some packing peanuts. So put this box to the side, and this is what it looks like, or at least wrapped up. So let's go ahead and open it up. So, got some board components here, the new tray. So, we're going to talk about what the whole point of this is, and directions. Part of the design of the NES system was to make it more like a high-end electronic, and they changed the design of it when they brought it to the US to be more like a VCR. That was the goal. So people didn't think of it as a toy. The click-down mechanism, while very nostalgic for me, and I will miss it, is the biggest flaw. It causes the pins to have issues, it breaks things down. They explain it a little bit better on their website, but what this is going to do is it's going to become a fixed unit that you just slide into, and it just works every time. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take this apart, see how easy it is. We'll try it out, and we'll see if it does what it claims. So here we have everything out. Got a couple stickers, not the best printed, almost looks like they printed it themselves, out of an inkjet, but it's got a nice little design here. I'm not going to apply these to my NES. And then you got the new frame, and then the board. Now, from what I understand, this has a lockout chip built into it that will make this region free. So that's a nice little add-on too. So let's move all this other stuff to the side. and then we're going to take the NES apart and get it installed. And all you need is a screwdriver. So here we go. Now the instructions say we've got 6. Oh, that screwdriver's not going to work. We're going to need a deeper screwdriver. Alright, try this one instead. We've got 6 bolts in the main base. Or 6 screws. So one. A magnetic screwdriver would have helped out a little bit nicer here. The one I was trying to use, I like to use for electronics. It was designed for working on computers, so it's not magnetic or anything. So there's 3. I emulated a little bit, and I've got a lot of WiiWare titles I've bought, but they didn't have everything I wanted. And I got a hold of the Retron 2, and I thought it was pretty good, but then I played a handful of games that had the sound was just awful. And it wasn't even like it was different, it was just painful to hear. Probably should take off the game. And then we have 9 screws and the RF shield. I can go back to use this one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure, there's one I'm missing. Not all that much dust in here for as old as this is. Probably end up just using it for the whole thing because I didn't bring the bit set with me for the black screwdriver. I'll just keep all these separate so I know which ones will go where. It's only 3 phases. It's really not a whole lot to it. I think anyone can do this. I like to keep my foot on the metal leg of my table, just to kind of move any static whenever I'm messing with electronics. Never fried anything, but I'd hate to find out what happens when you do. So, 3. I have collected most of my favorites on here. There's a few games that I didn't bother with because I already had the Mega Man series, the collections for the PS2, and while I prefer using the NES controller and the Super Nintendo controller, I was okay with not chasing down all those games. I do wish, and maybe it does exist, I could find some sort of adapter to use a NES controller on a PlayStation 2, but I've not really looked into it. I think I made it up to Mega Man 5 and I need to sit down and finish it someday and beat the other games. So let's see. Someone's holding this on. It almost feels magnetic. Alright, so there's the RF shield. Put that to the side. And then there's 6 screws on this unit, which you'll never need again, but I'm going to keep it. And who knows, I may end up putting this back in just for the sake of my kid knowing the struggle. Because we're going to start out, she's 2 years old now, and I'm going to start her on the NES, and we're going to work our way up through modern consoles. So maybe I'll make a challenge for her. She'll have to beat certain games before she can move on to another console. Maybe Ninja Gayden. That's one game I haven't even beaten yet. I've been to the 3rd form of the final boss, but unable to beat him. Maybe she can get good enough to teach me how. Definitely going to have to get her some Mario Brothers. I've got All-Stars on the Super Nintendo. I do have Mario 1 for the NES, but the All-Stars is such a complete collection, and the graphics are a nice addition. I guess that's really one of the first HD remakes if you think about it, because all the graphics were redone. So now, okay, so this, do this right, don't want to break anything. Okay, so I figured it out. So you have to kind of wiggle the tray and it comes out. So you kind of wiggle left and right and it comes out. It wasn't obvious, but there you go. There's the old loading tray, and there's what's replacing it. So you lose the spring mechanism, but you gain a more functioning, less finicky device. So another thing to set to the side. I think what will make this easier. So I can sit here and I can keep fiddling with this, but this board is fused to this. And this lower section of the RF tray is just getting in my way. So rather than wrestling with it and flexing it and possibly causing an issue, I'm going to see if I can get this lower section to lift. Yep. Okay. See, and then that moves it away from the tray, and then we should have more clearance for pushing it out. And I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, and hopefully an experienced console modder or person who repairs them can chime in the comments below and tell me what I've probably been doing wrong. There we go, worked it off. So there's the old connector. We can compare that to the new one that has the board. It's also going to sit higher because this one would click down, and this one's not going anywhere. So now that that's complete, let's see how easily it slides on there. Look at that. That wasn't hard at all. Okay. And this might be a good time to check out your connectors on the board, which I don't think mine look brand new, honestly, and clean them up. So we're done with this. Another part we can store and possibly retire for life. Get this screwed back down. So get this main module retightened. Just to give you a visual. That's how it goes in now. No more clicking. And it's a nice tight connection. And there you have it. So now, just to show you how it works now, slide in your cartridge, done. No more clicking down. And I'll miss the clicking down, and I have to make sure I remember not to click down, which is why they included that sticker. Be calm, don't press down. But honestly, I just don't like the quality of that sticker. I'd rather not use it. Same thing with this. But this all looks good, and they did a lot of testing. Kickstarter was real interesting. There wasn't a whole lot of response from them, at least on the Kickstarter page, but they really did stay in touch. I'm sorry, they really did come through and made this complete. And now let's take this back to the Game Center, plug it in, and see how well it works. Alright, now we've got everything installed and hooked back up. It wasn't too bad. I did take it apart a couple times because I went ahead and tested this and I was having a little bit of a hang up. I don't know if I had it inserted the wrong way or not. And I actually went through and I tested all my games, and I'll show you guys a few games here to see how this all works. And one game I had a problem with is Bubble Bobble. And everything else worked just fine. And I was a little concerned because all these games have been tested on the NES before I took it apart and on the Retron. So what I'll show you is we'll go ahead and take Bubble Bobble, and I'll show you what I was talking about with the problem. In all these games, it holds on really tight, and they can be really difficult to get out. And I feel like the more I do it, the easier it is to get out. So we'll go ahead and turn on the TV, and we'll try a couple of these out. So when we put the game in, we get a gray screen. Now, what I've done, I've messed around with this a little bit, and what I found is that you have to put the game in just right. And sometimes that means pushing the game in further, and sometimes working it back out. The games are really in there tight and hard to get sometimes, but getting it in just right, you get a working game. Another couple games to test out. Show you Ninja Gayden. Go ahead and slide that in there. Power up. Alright, that works just fine. That was pretty easy to put in. And it really takes a grip to get it out. And sometimes it's easier just to put your fingers on the side and kind of walk it left to right to get out. But get that out. Try just a couple more. Alright, and then last, I'll show you guys, get the turtles out. And I think over time this is going to get easier. And they said they tested the pins over many, many pulls. So, go ahead, got punch out right here. We had shown earlier, turn it on. But like you see, this was a pretty decent mod. All the games work right away. I had to fiddle with it a little bit to get going, and every now and then, like say with Bubble Bobble, which was the only game I had a problem with, you had to kind of move in and out just to get the right connection. Could be a problem with my cartridge, don't know. But overall, for the 30 bucks, I think it's a decent mod if you want to play games on your original NES and not emulate or play on WiiWare or a clone console. And one of the reasons I didn't like the clone console is the sound. On like Guardian Legend was just completely awful. It wasn't that it was different; it's that it hurt to listen to. So any modders out there, if you guys want to leave any comments or suggestions on some of the stuff we did here, I'm going to link below to the Kickstarter and to their video on their install of this. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.